The history of survival games is a very complicated and strange, but insanely entertaining one, with stories of success and valor and then equally as many of greed, deceit, and bad business decisions. I've spent the last 2 weeks of my life deciphering Wikipedia articles, forum posts, and learning about games that are so old they don't even have Wikipedia articles. The survival genre has gone from HTML web builders to digital real life with berry picking. But what started as a genre about survival has evolved and de-evolved into 1,000 hideous abominations and some that don't even resemble survival anymore, and is also responsible for me being called a loser in high school. The first survival game in recorded history was a 1985 text-based adventure, The Oregon Trail. It was made as an educational game about the harsh realities of traveling across America, where the more sick family members you have, the better. But it would be decades later before the survival genre even became a genre of its own. The first time a AAA studio would come even close to touching it was in 2007 with The Sims 2 Castaway. I remember playing this as a dumb child on my Nintendo DS and being blown away. I picked up sticks, made a spear, went spearfishing, stabbed a fish through the fish heart, cooked the fish on a fire, built with sticks, under a shelter, a bit with more sticks, and now my guy's happy. So happy that he peed on himself. And he's no longer happy. What? My little dumb baby brain was blown away by all of this. I'd never had to go hunting before. The closest thing to spearing a fish to the fish skull for me was grabbing a chicken wing out of a KFC bucket. Also, I really like squishing the bugs in this game. But just wait a damn minute. How did we get from here to here? To an advertisement for KFC chicken. And yeah, I know I just said Kentucky Fried Chicken. It was on purpose. Well, this is going to be quite the journey, so make sure you've got enough pork chops to fill your hunger bar, and make sure to hunt down that like and subscribe button. Yeah, I'm a YouTuber. You know how in the beginning I said The Oregon Trail was the first game to include survival mechanics? Well, that was maybe technically a little bit of a lie. Because what the fruit falling from the tree is this? Is this even a game? Hello, Bill. I love the new Microsoft Word update. Finding the answer to who was the first true survival game is about as complicated as answering which came first, the chicken or the egg. Because while Stranded was the first island survival game in the essence of what we define today as the typical survival game, it was actually inspired by a little-known German game called I don't know how to pronounce that. And this game had all the same features, but it wasn't in first person. So maybe this is the first one? Knock Knock Who's There, I'm Real World, who released 10 years earlier in 1992. But you only added in some of the more advanced survival features like Hunger and Thirst in 1996 because you're technically software, not an actual video game. Yeah, but come on, man, we had Frostbite of individual body parts. Knock Knock, it's Robinson's Requiem. I've got hunger, thirst, hypothermia, hypertension, drowning, exhaustion, and uncontrollable hemorrhages. And I did it all before you bitches. Also, I think my leg's broken. You see, it kind of depends on what you count as a survival game. Like, I love Terraria, but Steam, I don't know if that's a survival game. But arcade games are kind of like survival. They were just impossible, and winning meant going completely bankrupt. Is that survival? Well, I don't know. I'm about as lost as you are. I haven't even talked about Survival Kids or Survival the Ultimate Challenge or Big Deus. But I think somewhere around the mid-90s with these games is a pretty good place to start. Robinson's Requiem has you stranded on an alien planet where, of course, everything's trying to kill you. I started with no items and none of the buttons did anything, so in my confusion, I just started punching trees, which I quickly realized did nothing. But I kept doing it because at this point, I was completely broken, blackout drunk, and crying to the Sigma theme song, and also only 3 minutes into playing the game. But I will say, this game has the best death screen of all time. I don't know what it has to do with me not drinking enough water, but fire and brimstone, yeah! Stranded, or I guess this game was the first to do the whole alone on an island thing. You had to gather supplies, eat coconuts, avoid the man-eating monkeys, all in the aim to build a raft, get off the island, and probably drown, because I don't know how to build a raft. And in 2007, EA made the only good thing they've ever done in The Sims 2 Castaway, which is the first time a mainstream publisher would try a survival game. This was a big moment. So big that actually no one cared. A year before this, the cult classic Dwarf Fortress was released, and I know this looks more like computer science homework than an actual game, but it's a very unique form of storytelling, and its primitive design of managing needs, fighting off goblins, and building stuff would prove to be massively addictive, going on to be one of the main inspirations for what would be the gaming industry's equivalent of dropping Godzilla on a small Japanese town. As games became easy to make without a 120-person studio full of Jack, Daryl, and Jarrell, what the fuck is a Jarrell? People became inspired to make their own games, and so the indie scene was born. No, indie scene, you racist editor. Wait a second, I edit these. Arguably, you could say it started with Flash games, but that's a whole different rabbit hole, and Alice in Wonderland scares the shit out of me, so let's move on. We can talk about these stupid old games that no one knows about for an entire video, but let's get real for a second. There really is only one game responsible for making survival as big as it is today, and also getting me bullied. And that's Minecraft, baby! While some games were doing survival before notching his block game, no one combined the exploration, gathering resources, crafting, building, hunger bars, and fighting all into one gigabyte file. It was also one of the first to add a multiplayer aspect which took this simple idea and added chaos, capitalism, and killing to the menu. This idea was similar to an older game released in the same year as Dwarf Fortress called Worm Online. That should be called Buildcraft, because you know in Minecraft,
it's up to you.
Mining it, it's funny, I swear. Worm Online was an MMORPG, someone please fuck me, designed around gathering resources, building and crafting in a multiplayer setting. Someone call the police because this guy's a fraud. Alright, let's just relax for a second. It's actually completely fine, because one of the two men who made Worm Online would go on to be instrumental in the making of Minecraft. That person was none other than Marcus Persson, or better known Minecraft Man. Minecraft became instantly popular and sold so many copies that only 3 years after leaving the alpha stage of development, Marcus Minecraft Man outbid Jay-Z and Beyonce at an auction for a $70 million LA mansion. This is a rapper, and this is a game about blocks. What Minecraft did was dip its toes in the water of survival mechanics. It was more focused on the building parts. But some devs realized the potential and further aiming in on these survival elements. 7 Days to Die, Rust, DayZ, Don't Starve, Terraria, and the next year, even more games. Subnautica, The Forest, this War of Mine, and then all the countless updates shoved into all of these. The survival genre had gone through like 5 stages of evolution by now. Minecraft was like punch a tree, you get wood, and The Forest said, that's actually super boring. In our game, you punch a tree, it falls over, you get logs of wood, and if it falls in your base, everything's destroyed. All these games saw Minecraft's success differently and focused down on different elements of it. DayZ took the multiplayer aspect and taught children how to make friends. By limiting supplies and making it harder to get them, it forced players to interact with each other. Because you couldn't run off in the wilderness and start a farm anymore, you had to scavenge and negotiate. But you can't talk about this era without talking about the rise and simultaneous impact of YouTube Let's Plays. Indie survival games became especially popular because of the rise of gaming on YouTube, and it completely changed both forever. Developers quickly realized how strong influencer marketing was, and now mobile games pay like 20 grand to sponsorship. Hello, Raid Shadow Legends, give me a call. I can get like 3 guys plus me, that's 4. Feels like you're losing money not giving me a call. Also, these are hostages. So, like, if you don't, I'm gonna do things to them. You don't even want to know. The gameplay loop of gathering stuff, building, and crafting provided progression to their videos, and also downtime for Jacksepticeye to make jokes about Irish coconuts or something. Wait, is that bad? Can I say that? Then night came and everything's He's fighting 20 armed zombies and rots, and he's hungry and thirsty, but he's out of food, and oh god! Oh man, that was the best shit ever. Wait, is there a rock in my pants? I also think the hype of this era was just the inevitability of the popularity of survival in general. The Survivor show was massive, and Bear Grylls was running around jungles, drinking his pee and whatever else he does. Oh no, look, a jellyfish stung me on the mouth! Oh bother, what are we gonna do? And also zombies, because The Walking Dead was super cool. And not at all boring as fuck. Oh, no! All this helped to funnel young gamers towards Steam and fund these hungry game devs so they could create their masterpiece. You know, something that no one had ever seen before. An open world, randomly generated, hardcore survival game with a focus on building and crafting. Holy shit. And to release their masterpiece, they'd use Steam's early access. In 2013, survival games were at the frontier of the early access model, where you release something dog shit but promise, hey, one day it'll be good, because you didn't have to worry about NPCs, voice actors, or even a storyline. As long as you can build a house and punch some trees, that's pretty good. Releasing constant updates kept the game relevant as players kept coming back and saying, oh wow, there's sheep now. The problem with this business model is that, well, what if you don't release any updates? The War Z was another typical DayZ ripoff, but that didn't stop hungry gamers as it sold 2.8 million copies. And everyone played it and realized, oh god, it's not good. It received a 2 out of 10 on Metacritic and was soon pulled from stores because everyone who bought it got scammed. Then in September 2015, a spiritual successor was born called Infestation Survivor Stories. Surprise, surprise, it was another scam, and a year later the servers were shut down forever. And you can blame all of that on DayZ, because they did it first. If you compare survival games to the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Minecraft was the cool blue guy, while DayZ was the really angry but super jack red dude. Everyone else loved them both and copied them endlessly, but for some reason, this one just hated everything. The DayZ mod was, and I don't say this lightly, a cultural reset. Brother, you're telling me I can play a realistic survival horror zombie game set in Russia? Soviet land of the Putin? DayZ was such a foreign and like strange game, but insanely sick at the same time, and there was literally nothing else like it. Not only did it have zombies, but none of the buttons made any sense at all, and I don't know what the fuck that says, which made the survival horror so much scarier. You truly felt lost, alone, and completely screwed. Exactly how a survival horror game should be. But the real survival horror was just installing the damn thing. Which sucked because when they released the game, they stopped working on the mod everyone fell in love with. The game lacked the same features and just didn't play the same, and they also never really fixed it. This thing made more money than I will in my entire life and couldn't release more than 2 guns a year. DayZ will forever be the biggest waste of potential in video games ever. And it still breaks my heart to this very day. It could have been so good. By now, the indie scene was drowning under the flood of hundreds of thousands of survival games, trying literally anything possible to stand out, make a bit of that War Z money. Oftentimes, the selling pitch around these games was making them ultra-realistic to the point of real life. But this revealed an interesting problem. The more realistic survival games got, the more people checked into therapy. Like to bandage a cut on one of your arms in green hell, you need to craft a bandage, pull up a menu, select the arm, inspect the arm, rotate it until you find the cut. Now grab the bandage, apply it to the cut, and now watch a 2-second cutscene and you're done. Which obviously takes a while. But if you spend even a second to think about it, it's a little ridiculous. Because quick science lesson, arms have nerves, and when we get hurt, these things send extreme amounts of pain to that cut on our arm telling us, hey idiot, stop playing with knives. Some games stood out by taking what makes survival cool and combining it with this week's top post on iFunny. Subnautica is a pretty unconventional survival game. There's no land cows or lighting campfires, but some say it's the best of them all. Honestly, I'm allergic to water, so not for me. Another of the disgusting offspring of survival games is the simulation genre. While barf-inducing, they can take the idea of survival and use it in some pretty cool ways. However, Tough Life has unique needs besides eating and drinking, like hygiene, because no one's giving money to a smelly bearded man. Despite how creative some of these games can be, because of how saturated the genre is, it can be hard to even create a dent in the industry, no matter how many different types of berries a game has. Valheim tried and died, The Culling tried and died, and My Pet Rabbit Sniffles also tried and died. There have been a serious lack of good survival games released in the past year, and while the overly saturated and strung out indie survival games will always be around, it's hard to see them reclaim their former glory. But as with everything else in gaming, as survival games got more popular, in came the AAA studios with their pens and paper ready to steal literally everything. Indie survival games have always been built from a place of defiance and rebellion. As games got easier, gamers fought back and made games the way they wanted them to be, not the way a bunch of wrinkly old dudes want them to be who think a tutorial is a type of hip replacement. While AAA games are all about following the pack and doing what everyone else is doing. So naturally, like the hippie movement, the survival genre was infiltrated by the CIA and covert opted into funny t-shirts from Target. This much profit would send any executive into a dog frothing at the mouth for upward arrows on a graph. But it would be stupid to implement these brutal survival features into a game made for mass appeal. Little Timmy doesn't want to stop murdering poor people from a third world country just to refill his hunger bar. But there's a way to please both crowds, because yeah, little Timmy doesn't want Far Cry 6 to involve 5 hours of harvesting corn and human rights, but some do, and so the survival mode was born. Not to be confused with the horde mode from like Call of Duty, sometimes they're called the same, but they're really different. The Fallout series didn't really start as survival games, but as the games went from, oh my god, I'm so poor and weak, and the only way I can make money now is sleeping with a dude who looks like this for $50 just so I can buy some more ammo and then die 15 minutes later to radiation poisoning I didn't even know I had. Thanks, Fallout. To now, I am the reincarnated spirit of Alexander the Great and will raid, pillage, and slaughter every human being in this entire world. But they still wanted to stick to their roots, so to bridge the gap, they added in the survival difficulty. But vanilla Fallout 4 survival just isn't fun. It isn't thought out or integrated well at all. It isn't really super difficult, but just super tedious. No fast travel sounds like a great and super immersive idea until you've walked the exact same road 17 times and there isn't a single enemy, random encounter, or berry to pick anymore. Just road. Hardcore mode in theory is a magnificent idea and I wish it was a standard feature, but the reason it's not is because most of the time, it just kinda sucks. Like most things AAA games culturally appropriated, stealth, they often don't put enough thought into it or just pretend it doesn't exist. And this is kind of a problem that keeps popping up. There's this Kotaku article about sadly survival games aren't really about survival anymore, explaining how survival mechanics have taken a back seat and survival is more about adventure now with games that I've never heard of. What is this? But this isn't a tragedy or game devs being greedy or lazy. This is just an inevitability. Because by now the fantasy of the stranded alone, feeding and fighting for yourself kind of game is worn off because it's apparent how much of these games are very repetitive. expensive. Yeah, some people still like it, but they probably also like the game of filing taxes in Microsoft Excel. Despite the fact me and your mother had to flush the survival genre's rotting corpse down the toilet, the ongoing impact of survival games has now fully reached the mainstream. Nearly every game is crafting now, and they hate it. AAA devs had two routes for adapting the survival genre. They could have gone head first into making games where you live and breathe the character. Geralt needs a haircut, some food, and some bitches. Get it done, or he dies. Or they could have taken the elements that provided progression to these games, like the gathering, crafting, and building. One of these roads is much easier than the other, but one of these roads is also much better. Kingdom Come Deliverance adds in the need to eat food, but also makes it very easy to meet those needs. With free cookouts in town and also random mushrooms in the forest you can eat to start seeing these weird things. While Fallout 4 took the RP out of RPG for building and crafting. Yeah! Both of these roads force you to interact with the world, but only one provides consequences. You see, it's easy to look at all of this and think it's about challenge or progression or spearfishing, but no. All of these are just byproducts of the central goal of creating an immersive experience. Which is what a lot of games are trying to do now. Hence why Link's sword breaks now and Arthur needs to polish his guns and get his gun polished, you know what I'm saying? And yeah, Arthur's beard growing too long and dying cold and alone in a snowstorm are two different things. But guess what? It's my video and I say what I want. Pee pee poo poo. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that GTA 6 is going to include Trevor's left arm falling off due to frostbite. But devs are starting to realize the potential in using these mechanics, and the sooner more devs do, the better. But to get back on track with the whole two roads thing, the most common survival mechanic seen in modern AAA games is crafting and like building. Because that's what Minecraft was about, right? It's in the name, Minecraft. In Far Cry, Red Dead 2, and Sneaky Scandinavians, you go hunt some animals to get a slightly bigger house that still does nothing in your slightly bigger village that still does nothing. Even Hades does this, and I like having purple curtains. They look good, but it's kind of pointless. Fallout 4 did it much better because in these games, I can make giant floating cops. The building worked better in older sandbox games in Fallout 4 because you're not just given a checklist of stuff to spawn in the world, you actually get to be creative with it. This is a piece of glorious modern fine art, and this is a list of chores. The Last of Us 2 is pretty great, but tries so hard to be gritty and real, and then after being shot in the head with a shotgun or having half my face eaten off, I can eat a granola bar, and now, oh wow, no more bullet holes, and I've had facial reconstruction surgery. And a game like The Last of Us would be perfect for a hunger system too. Maybe on an empty stomach, Ellie gets the fuzzies, or without water, Joel can't super slam clickers anymore, which would add so much more intensity and natural difficulty. Like shit, I haven't eaten in 5 hours and now I can't stealth because this zombie and my stomach sound exactly the same. Instead of the current system of turning an already fun as fuck game about blasting holes through heads on normal difficulty into the Division 2, but everything's got aimbot and fighting ammo is about as rare as finding a good video on the YouTube trending page on grounded difficulty. Also, the second hardest difficulty in this game is called the Survivor difficulty. You were so close! Far Cry is exactly the same. Every time I keep playing him, I can't help thinking, yeah, this crafting's cool, but it would be so much cooler if all these useless pickups, like fucking fruit bars and potato chips, actually were useful and meant something. Because like The Last of Us 2, there are so many meaningless pickups everywhere. The potential for these systems is insane, and doing this and this just doesn't take enough advantage of it. The modders of the GTA 5 no-pixel server see this 100%. They've aimed at implementing a bunch of survival mechanics into the multiplayer. These needs create scenarios because to eat, someone's got to cook the food, but to get the food, you got to buy the food. But buying food costs money. I know, crazy concept. This feels like such a natural extension of Minecraft survival multiplayer. If it didn't require a full team of coders, everyone would be doing this. Another survival game that does this perfectly is RimWorld. While it's definitely closer to a mental asylum add-on for The Sims than say The Forest, it doesn't just add in a hunger meter and say, that's good enough. Bad cooks create bad food, which causes salmonella and a lot of cleaning. Not eating at a table causes depression because that shit's for poor people. Drinking beer creates fun times, but also addictions, which also causes depression. But why this is perfect is because while your goal might be to keep your settlers healthy and mentally sane, I'm doing the exact opposite. Temperature's important because sweating causes mental breakdowns, but can also be used to boil invaders alive. If only it was that easy in real life. It's consistent, creative, and universally loved. And survival is a big part of that. The survival stuff was one of the main reasons people love Breath of the Wild, not only because it shook up the formula, but it added so much more immersion and creativity and just insane world building. It definitely isn't a strict survival game, but I think it balances it really well for the masses. You get clear advantages for eating, and your fire needs shelter from the rain, but also clothing is important because hypothermia causes some issues. Alright, yep, survival mechanics are big and in fucking everything now, but more importantly, you can blame survival games for the fact that Travis Scott and Ariana Grande are doing digital online Fortnite concerts. Because these guys copied these guys, and these guys copied these guys, but added a shrinking force field and no respawns. That bit's important. But the true proof of the survival genre's power is that 12 years later, Minecraft is still the biggest thing ever. And most survival games are still being updated to this very day. Crafting is in absolutely everything now, and I hate it. But I also kind of love it. I grew up playing survival games, and it's really wholesome to see that, yeah, survival games grew up too. And got really addicted to money and meth. Hey, welcome to the outro screen. Also, that's gonna be my new thing, by the way. That's gonna be the, it's gonna be the bit, it's gonna have bits too, but today we're just gonna chat. This video should have come out a lot earlier than it did, but I'm kind of having a lot of like health issues and like stuff recently that have all just like compounded and snowballed in like the last 3 weeks to like a month. Like I went and I've had to go get a bunch of blood tests recently for some just to test new medication that I'm on, and it revealed kind of a bunch of weird things. Like I've now it turns out I've got really bad liver damage, and also I've got super high cholesterol. Like I've got the cholesterol of like a overweight person in their 50s, and I'm 20 years old, skinny as shit, and exercise and eat well. Like it's really weird, so we don't know what the hell's going on there. And then I got my vaccine too, which like just the worst timing ever was when my back molar, my final back molar finally started coming through. So it was like, I was just so drained for like 3 days straight because your tooth is connected to your ears, and then also your sinuses, which is connected to your brain. So basically everything was just shutting down and not working and really sore. I had toothaches and earaches for ages. It was miserable. It was miserable. And also, I guess that kind of just coincided with the general sometimes shittiness of life. But I'm not saying this is to be like a poor me, self-pity thing. Everyone has health issues. But why I'm saying this is because ever since starting doing YouTube, this channel has been one of the constant sources of happiness for me in the last year. I started doing it initially because of university, because I could do some of my stuff there, and it could have been, you know, my big final for my 3rd year. But it has slowly grown to be a massive part of my life and something that I really genuinely enjoy. And one of the, you know, biggest parts of my day, if also the majority of my day, if you can't tell. I put way too much effort into these. And when I feel sick or tired or just kind of depressed, all of this just provides a little bit of light and joy. And I hope it can for you too. I know I like meme a lot, but I really do genuinely appreciate even like the 120 average people who watch these. It really means a lot, and so thank you, really. Anyway, I don't really know what else to say. I don't mean this to be like kind of a downer on the video. So yeah, I guess smash like, do some fucking BLJs on that subscribe button, man, and yeah, leave some comments. Oh, also join the Discord. There's this cool channel where you can see games and stuff, free games. That's awesome. I think Hitman was on sale a while ago, so it was like some other really cool games that I don't remember. I got Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 for free. Pretty sweet. Okay, bye.